Hello everyone, welcome to episode 62 of FPL BlackBox, being brought to you on a Wednesday night with the FA Cup games going on and my FPL decisions resting on the outcome of Chelsea versus Luton. I'm joined by two very special guests today. It's Pras and Sonaldo. You might know them from the Burning Questions series over on Sprout, but it's great to have you both on it. The newcomers to the FPL content world. How are you both doing? How are you doing, Andy?
Very good. 6:05 a.m. here, and we just finished recording about 6 hours ago. So hopefully my brain starts to tick along and function as we do the pod today. So thank you very much for the invite.
Have you got any coffee, any liquid to help you along, or are you just gonna?
I just have water, so we'll see what happens.
How you doing, Pras? It's 9:05 for us. Well,
yeah, very well. Thank you for having me on. One of my favorite videos weekly, and it's a real bucket list moment to be on. So thank you for having me.
Well, I will take that. For everyone asking about Mark, he should be back. His flag status is kind of changing. He's still yellow flagged. I imagine he's going to be back in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Or so, but obviously two great guests tonight. I've got another two great guests next week as well to keep us all going until his return. Anyway, we've got loads to talk about, the three of us. I'm potentially free hitting, potentially wildcarding. Pras has built the most incredible looking team I've ever seen in my life for Game Week 28. And Sonaldo's here as well. But I'm sure he's got plans as he always has. So before we get into 28, let's talk about 27. It was a pretty underwhelming double game week. Pras and Sonaldo both free-hitted. Pras's team is on the screen. Pope and me with 5 and 3. Walker-Peters and Cancelo both with 9. Sterling, Fernandes, Son and Mahrez. Oh dear, Sterling and Mahrez. And then Broja, Kane and Weghorst captain. Free hit, Pras, 61. Not bad. Happy with that?
Underwhelming, I think. I played my wildcard in game week 26. So the strategy was always, so if you look at the points gained, it's like 40 plus, but that doesn't really tell the story because I had loaded up on Arsenal, Liverpool, basically players who don't play in 27. It could have gone better. I would think, the City assets was the real blow. And it's fine if your two players that you pick don't do well, but it's basically Foden doing well in return, who you kind of everyone else owns or many other people own. That didn't help. I think Fernandes against Watford, he had so many chances. Foster getting the clean sheet. Again, many people had started him who were not on free hit. So those are the two things that didn't work out. No regrets on Burnley whatsoever. I think it was a double game week. It's a nice thing to have where you have a free hit and you can get these guys and never look at them again. So I think overall, fairly okay.
I mean, Pep's been fairly consistent this season. I think there's been people like Luke and Emma on Twitter have been fairly accurately guessing his lineups, and we were all so sure, weren't we, that Mahrez was going to start this one. 22 minutes off the bench, scores a penalty. This is like he's definitely going to start, and then he's on the bench. Just typical.
In a way, the rest midweek didn't help people because almost the midweek lineups help guide the next week or the next game's lineup. So they had a full week's rest. So to be honest, not too surprising, but I said when I posted my score, I wouldn't have changed anything. There was upside with Mahrez and Sterling, and we went for it. You have to do that on a free hit.
Yeah. No, completely agree. Andy, who I'm going to keep jumping between calling you Andy and Sonaldo as we do this, just because that's what I do. You also played your free hits, 57 points, a few less than Pras. Pope, you went for Tarkowski, who didn't get injured. That's something, although it made absolutely no difference whatsoever in the end. Bednarek and Cancelo. Son, Fernandes, Sterling, Mahrez, Weghorst, Kane and Broja. I mean, pretty much exactly the same team as Pras, and there was a very strong free hit template last week, wasn't there? You happy with 57?
I mean, not happy, but it would be better than my normal team. So I guess points gained there. I think the free hit was the right play in game week 27. I do have 2, so I'm glad I got one out of the way. I think I was fiddling with the template team for the entire week, sort of had this team in mind, and then the last day I wanted to switch it around, but I'm glad I stuck to my guns, even though it didn't work out. The last minute Burnley clean sheet wipeout really hurt because I think if we were able to get that second clean sheet, I would be very happy with this free hit, but that one really hurt. I think Mahrez, Sterling were the good upside chases. Son, Kane delivered for us, and Broya, unfortunate. Bednarak, I could have gone Kyle Walker-Peters. A last-minute decision to go Bednarak, but little points difference there. I don't really worry about too much. But the City boys not showing up was very unfortunate.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if you saw my tweet about Broya, but I've been getting relentless stick for that since last week. So there will be lifetime bans for anyone in the chat who decides to make any jokes about whispering or anything like that as we go. And also now I obviously can't pick Broya in any free hit or wildcard team I have, because then I look like a massive hypocrite. So everyone just bear that in mind. My team, I got 61, took a -4. Obviously didn't have to use the free hit in the end. I was absolutely delighted with that, to be fair. De Gea in goal, Cancelo, Dean, Livramento, all getting points in defence. Fernandes, Son, Foden, Bowen, Ramsey, Jimenez, not even starting. And then, like so many, went for Weghorst captain. So, yeah, I mean, all I wanted to do was come out of this. I would have probably taken 10, 15 points worse off than free hit teams. I've actually come out, level on points with Snaldo, for example, and bang on what a lot of free hit teams got. So, couldn't really have gone better for me, this one. So yeah, let's just hope that luck holds till the end of the season.
No, you played it really, really well. I mean, this is the thing with Foden, right? You had him, and so you beat most Man City teams on the free hit, and so you matched the captain. So yeah, brilliant.
I mean, honestly, I was as sure as I was that Mahrez was going to start. I was as sure Foden wouldn't start that match. I thought it was just the prime game to give him a bit of a rest, and obviously had all the problems in the week. And yeah, in the end, I wasn't really ever close to putting the free hit, but I really did think I could be down to 10 if Livramento missed out and Foden as well. So yeah, it's pretty lucky. Mark's team. So Mark got the high score of all of us, and as we will see, Mark got the highest score in the greater good as well. He's on the rise, 63, a massive 2 more points than you, Pras, with his free hit. Pope, Bednarek, Tarkovsky, he went for Creswell, who got 7 points. He tripled up on the Man City mids, Mahrez, Sterling and De Bruyne, got nothing from that. Son, Broya and Weghorst, but his main shrewd move was captaining Kane. Brilliant. Do you think we all got a bit carried away by the double game? I mean, we definitely did, didn't we, Pras? Really? I mean, it was Burnley.
Look, I think, we did. But you saw what Spurs did against Middlesbrough last night, right? So I don't think, and, we all felt that United are going to batter Watford and Everton will get hammered by City. That didn't happen. So I just feel going for a one-game punt and backing a Kane or a Son would be fine. I mean, it's a fine move. But I personally, the way I play, expected value, Weghorst was number 1, and I don't regret it one bit. I mean, he scores that offside goal. It's all fine. So I don't think, if anything, it focuses people more to captain Salah next week, which I like, because I'm not going to do it again. So I'm happy to go against the single game weeker again. See who wins next week.
Captaincy is a very interesting topic this week, I think, because there's a lot of okay options. There's no real standout. Andy, you're a sucker for a double game, can't you? No regrets with Weghorst, right?
I mean, absolutely. As I mean, like, just part of FPL is also enjoying the game, right? It's like, we're so tied up in gaining rank and trying to move up the rank, and that's all great and stuff. But we love this game because of, these double game weeks and really attacking these fixtures. And, it's fun when you're able to cheer on your captain for 2 games. It's much more fun than just one game. So definitely a double game week will be my captain this game week as well.
Yep, good. And the good news is Chelsea have beaten Luton. They are through. That means basically everything I prepared today isn't completely useless, because if Luton had won that game, this would be a very different stream with me hastily deleting stuff, I think, off Excel sheets. So yeah, Chelsea are through, which means their double game week is now confirmed. They will be playing Burnley and Norwich, and it looks like a really good double for them, as we're going to touch on in a bit. Before we get into that, here's the great and the good. Thank you to Greyhead for sending this over to me. Have a look at that, though. Every single manager in the great and the good, Captain Weghorst, including you two, who are honorary additions this week, except for Mark. Mark was the only one to go against him and went for Kane and got rewarded. It hasn't helped him too much, though, because he's still bottom of the list. But he did get a 31k rank rise, which he'll be very chuffed with. So if you two are on this list, I think Andy, you're 13k, so you'd be 5th You'd be just behind FPL General. Pras, you are 21k, which would put you just behind Zofar, ahead of Magnus Carlsen. Not a bad person to be ahead of. But it's a strong season for both of you. I mean, what are your kind of goals, Andy, this year? I mean, it's got to be, well, you push on for top 1k?
First of all, I want to put this out here as, obviously we're grateful that you invited both Pras and I. But, I think as fans of Mark, he's been missing for a while and you've been holding the fort down. So shout out to you, Az, for doing a great job with BlackBox. So chat guys, cheer on Az, because he's, there's a lot of work that goes into this. So I just wanted to give that shout out real quick. In terms of my season goal this year, it's obviously to get a top 10K. 2 top 10Ks in a row would mean a lot to me. I've seen managers who've, had like 8 or 9 top 10Ks in a row. Pras is obviously, a Hall of Fame type of manager and someone I rely on a lot for advice as well. And
how much do we pay him for these plugs, Pras? It's great.
I don't know. It's I only have 3 top 10Ks. I don't know what Sonaldo's talking about.
But luck has to go your way and such. But so I think the game's getting harder and harder year by year, right? And there's more players, and so I think it's only going to get harder. So I really want to try to push for a top 10K and hopefully get there by the end of the season this year.
So top 10K is the target.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Nice. Pras, about the same?
Yeah, about the same. I just wanted to say this season is slightly different from the others, where if I was at this position game week 28, I would back myself top 10K easy. The issue I think this season is there's a lot of good managers in the top 20, 30K because of how complex the season has been. I mean, the people who, bought Watkins before the game was postponed, or, those guys aren't now in the top 50K. So this is going to be tough. And the real proof of this was Weghorst EO of 160%. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, who's buying Weghorst before a double game week? It's all these engaged managers. And so I am actually a little bit more cautious in terms of the goals. Obviously would love a top 10K, but it's hard this season. People are going to be clued on to the doubles in 33, 36. It's not going to be easy, but yeah. Obviously, my goal remains 10K.
I mean, if kind of Andy, Let's Talk FPL is a bit of a benchmark for like really engaged managers, watching YouTube content. I mean, he's got 250,000 subscribers, something like that. Yeah. So that's kind of like the bare minimum of how many people are putting in a lot of effort into this game. You could probably double that as well. I reckon you've got anywhere between 500,000 and 1 million, real kind of hardcore people these days. And back 4 or 5 years ago, it was probably couple of 100,000, something like that. And last year, a lot of top managers struggled, and I struggled as well. But this year, it does seem that it's kind of shifted a bit, and there's a lot of people in and around, especially the top 50K as well, which is why it's surprising that Mark is down the bottom. But given that he's been not on BlackBox and stressed and work, it's probably not that surprising.
What's your goal as then? Your top 1K?
I've got to finish in the top 1K from here. Really, I think anything less than that would I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it'd be disappointing. I think, given I've got 2 free hits, wildcard, bench boost, all these things. If I nail those, then I should push for the top 1K. But if I finish in the top 10K, it'd be okay. It's been a while since I did that, so I wouldn't be too disappointed. But yeah, like you mentioned, Pras, it was a good week. I mean, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had 9 free hits played this week out of the 15, 11 out of 17, including you two. And we had green arrows for pretty much everyone except for FPL Matthew and Tom Freeman and Fabio, who went down like 500 places. Yeah, he was having an awful week, Fabio, and then bloody James Maddison comes off his bench and scores. Well, that's so Fabio, that is. Love that. Final thing on this, just in terms of team value and hits, it's interesting. You two, you both like your hits. Pras, you've taken -36. Andy, you're on a -44, which definitely puts you over the season as one of the more hit-centric managers. Have you always been like that, or is that kind of just this season?
So I learned this from Pras earlier in the season, and I always wondered what the right strategy for taking hits is. And one of the things that stood out to me was he told me he's not afraid to take hits early in the season, because you want to sort of get ahead of the template and move fast towards the template, right? So I think I was very convinced about that. And so I decided to make the right moves. And a lot of these hits did turn out really well because I'm looking at 3-4 game weeks for returns. And another thing that I want to sort of apply next season is I know Kamzi is in the chat right now, and Kamzi also is a very decorated manager who also, kind of chases price value early in the season. So I think next season I'm going to be more aggressive with hits, especially early in the season. But right now, with all the postponements and the difficulty navigating the season, hits are a very important or a necessity to do well in this season.
Yep, very good. Pras, one thing I noticed, you are doing worse than Sonaldo in terms of rank. I mean, not by a huge amount, 21k to 13k, but you've had 40 more points on him than captaincy. In fact, Andy, your captain points are the worst of all the managers in the great and the good. What's going on there?
I think it's this. I think in game week 9, I captained Kane over Salah when he hauled against Man United. So that was a huge swing for me. That really hurt me a lot. And then also there was the Bruno captaincy over Ronaldo, I think 22, 21, something like that. So I got the big swings wrong. And so those hurt a lot.
Yeah, and then obviously people who went for Havertz on that same week with Liverpool can relate. People who went for Antonio over Bowen that week when he hauled. It's just a couple of weeks can make a big difference. God, imagine how high you'd be. You'd be ahead of me if you got those 50-50s right. It shows fine margins.
Andy has a very and Andy has basically two sides of his advice. There is one side which is the I think outside some of his Twitter friends, which are basically the Ilanga captainers. I don't want to name names, but they are the ones who basically suggest him all these maverick picks. And then there's this other sensible group, and I don't want to include myself in it, but who basically tell him to captain Weghorst. So that's how he kind of ends up.
It's like the proper devil and the angel on the shoulders,
basically as
each way.
Processing in a nice way. I have very thin ears, and I listen to basically everyone's advice. So, decision making is not my forte when it comes to FPL.
Well, you're still 13k, so something must be going right. Next thing I want to show, excuse the poor graphics on the screen. I hastily stuck this together. One thing I wanted to do was I've been really, really interested by this split that we saw back in game week 26 of some people going for the wild card and some people going for the triple captain. And I know there's some manager in the great and the good that have done some things, but I thought what I'd do is I'll just grab a kind of random sample on Twitter, just of 16 from each group, and just track to see how they score and have a look at the different periods in which people are doing. So, I mean, you've got 26 to probably 28, 29, and then 30 going on for a few weeks, and then towards the end of the season. And people are going to use chips at different times, and there's going to be swings and things. So, I thought I'd just put together a little something to track this. So you can see in game week 26, the average of the people I looked at was 130, which is high, crazy high for the wildcarders. And then the average of the triple captains was 141. So the triple captainers did better in that week, which is pretty understandable given that, Salah got like 30 points, whatever it was. It's interesting game week 27 though, because this was free hit time, and this is when you start to see this big shift. But we know that it was quite a disappointing week. So actually, the people who wildcard in 26 only got an average of 56, even though 13 out of the 16 played the free hit chip. The average of the triple captains in 26 was 53. So only 3 less, but only 5 of them played the free hit. So they've effectively got those 2 chips, the wildcard and the free hit, in there, and not the triple captain. So you've got to think at the moment it's advantage triple captainers because they've got more points and they've still got arguably the best 2 chips to use. You're both in the wildcard camp though, right? You both wildcarded in 26? No, you didn't, Sonaldo? Just a free hit. Okay. Pras, are you happy with that decision still?
Very much so, because I think the wildcard in 26 was obviously not just for 26, and 27 is a free hit. So I can't really compare with how they set up. The wildcard in 26 set us up for the doubles in 28 and 29 and the blank in 30. So it's really after that we can measure how this plays out. Of course, it's disappointing that the Arsenal-Chelsea game didn't fall in 28, and now it looks like Chelsea-Norwich will, but I don't think that changes a lot. Most wildcarders are looking to bench boost this week. Again, an opportunity to get that out of the way. So yeah, chips will influence this a little bit, but I think the decision to go heavy on Liverpool, who have a double in 26 and also in 29, to go heavy on Arsenal, who have a double in 26 and 29, getting, triple Wolves, which isn't the best, I think, with the data that we're seeing more recently, but at least you got the double in 26 and now in 28. So there were these factors, I think, that played into it, which means that 1 week gap that you were able to close with the Salah triple captain, which you can see here is about 11 points. So you've made up 18 points without using the triple captainship. Hopefully you'll be able to make more in 28 and 29 and also be well set up for 30. That's the idea anyway. Obviously things don't work out like they did when we wildcarded. We didn't expect Salah to get almost 30 points. I mean, you'd expect a 20 pointer, but I think it was more than what wildcarders expect. So things haven't gone exactly to plan. But I still hope 28, 29, 30 will be where you really differentiate against the non-wildcarders.
It really lived up to the hype game week 26, didn't it? Because the wildcard teams all did. I mean, to get an average of 130 in the ones I looked at, I mean, you'd be over the moon with that score normally. But then the triple captain's getting 141. You take away, those Salah points, and it's a lot closer. When are you thinking of wildcarding then, Andy? If you've still got your second one to use, are you going to use it soon, next week maybe?
Yeah, I mean, we had a 2-hour session on burning questions about wildcard 28. I'm pretty set on saving my wildcard till 31. I think I can obviously not get huge green arrows in the next two, but I still think I can get green arrows in 28, 29 without having to use a wildcard in 28. And talking to FPL Joe as well as Pras today, what I realized from a wildcard in 28 is that it's actually quite complex because there's no one way to sort of play your chip strategy if you do decide to wildcard in 28. So I just prefer to kind of navigate my way through the next 2-3 and then use it when I have a little bit more information and kind of a bigger landscape of the last part of the season.
Yep, very good. The chips normally are so boring, really. Everyone waits until the same weeks and plays them, and there's little points. And it's why I wanted to do a little something on the 26 swing, because I think it's one of the most interesting. It's definitely the most interesting thing that's happened this season for a lot of us. All the postponements and stuff was a nightmare. This was actually people with different ideas, different strategies. Everyone had a different way of which way they wanted to go, and it was so split down the middle. I mean, I know you had some bench boosters and some other people around there, but it really did feel like 50% of the community went one way and 50% went the other from all the talk. So it's been to see how this kind of pans out. You mentioned wildcards just on the screen. Anyone who is wildcarding, and we will talk a bit more about wildcards at the end of this stream. Sorry, Lynn, who's in the chat and says she doesn't like us talking about all these chips. I think she's used all of hers, or at least most of hers at this point. But these are the games on the screen that are still to be rearranged. So we know that Chelsea, Norwich, which wasn't even due to be rearranged but has been because of FA Cup stuff, we know that's going to be dropped into 28 now. But Chelsea have still got Arsenal and Leicester to come in at some point. Leicester have got 3 games left to be rearranged. Norwich at home, which looks great. Everton away and Chelsea away. So again, wildcarders might want to think about having a Leicester player or getting a Leicester player, so they've got that kind of in place. Maddison, to me, I mean, I'm massively biased, but I think he looks a great option going forward. Spurs have got Arsenal. Arsenal have got Spurs and Chelsea. Everton have got Burnley and Leicester. Villa have got another game to be arranged against Burnley. Burnley have got 2 more games to end their massive sequence of doubles against Villa and Everton. And then Norwich have got obviously the Chelsea double come in, and then Leicester. And then there's going to be more double game weeks on the horizon with the game week 30 postponements, but we don't know when they are. We think there's going to be a big, massive double game week in like 33 or 36 or something like that, but we don't have too much news about it. But yeah, if you are playing your second wildcard, these are the teams that you might want to just have a route into getting some of these players. Right, you two ready to talk some stats? I've got so many stats. It's unbelievable.
Before you do that, just for you to know, as Broya has scored the final goal.
You've got to whisper it. Whisper it.
Oh, now
he got an assist as well.
Did he? Okay.
But we are not even going to talk about Broja because Che Adams is so superior to him in every way that I'm going to be making the case that you don't need Broja. And I can't get him now, so it doesn't matter. Right, I've got some stats. So these stats, I've kind of tried to focus them mostly on the double game week players this week. We can talk about some of the other teams. There's other teams with good fixtures, Arsenal against Watford, for example. But I have focused it on the double game week, which is why I was so happy that Chelsea beat Luton, because otherwise this would all be in the mud, as the kids say. So let's take a look at team data first, as we always do. This is the team data defence. Over the season, it's Man City at the top, 138.8 minutes per XG conceded non-penalty. Second is Chelsea. You have the double game week, 109.2. Having a look at some of the other double game week teams in action, you got Villa, who are 6th. Wolves dropped right down into 9th. They were much higher than that. Southampton are in 12th, about mid-table. And then you've got Newcastle in 16th, Watford in 17th, and Norwich in 19th. They're conceding an XG every 54.1 seconds, which is a lot, especially when you compare that to City and Chelsea, for example. But at the bottom now is Leeds. They finally hit the bottom of the table, 51.8. They are conceding chances for fun. Bielsa has gone. Everyone's really sad. What did you make of it, Pras? Do you think that was the right decision?
You and I were chatting on Twitter. I think if the new manager can keep them up, then obviously who's to say it wasn't the right decision. But the issue is that if he doesn't, then who was the guy who would be the right one to bring them back up? It would have been Bielsa.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the main thing. And it feels a bit like the Ranieri sacking where, all the fans, apart from the team where the manager was sacked, were against it. So Leicester fans didn't want Ranieri sacked, and Leeds fans didn't want Bielsa sacked. But as a neutral who don't, or a non-Leeds fan, I just think they were just looking so bad. They were so open. We don't know where it's coming from, whether it was just people not listening to him anymore, which seems unlikely. Whether it's just the team just not performing because of Bamford injured and the other injuries they had to Phillips. We just don't know. And how will the new manager resolve that if it's the latter?
Yeah, exactly. I think there was a stubbornness of him not wanting to change some of the marking systems, for example, but also so many individual errors from players. I watched the game and Dan James gave the ball away against Spurs to Kulusevski, like on the edge of his own box, and then he had a shot and nearly scored, similar to how we did for the first goal. It's just constant things like that keep happening. They just keep losing the ball. The passing's not been good enough. Ayling can't play at centre back, which is just so incredibly obvious to everyone watching. But yeah, Andy, as a football fan, you're probably a bit disappointed. They played exciting attacking football, but it's been pretty bad this year, isn't it, really?
I think when it comes to Bielsa, he's just gotten very unlucky with the injuries, Bamford being one, but the key player being Phillips. If you look at the Spurs versus Leeds game, actually, you just mentioned Ayling, and Ayling was actually one-on-one man marking Son the entire game. And
that's not going to go well, is it?
It's not going to go well. And Pras did mention that Leeds does this quite a bit, where they man mark their best player, or the opposition's best players. And so if you look at the very first goal, Son comes in towards the center of the pitch. Ayling follows him in. And the reasoning here is that Bielsa thinks that Dallas can cover for him, but Sessegnon was too fast for him. And that's sort of how they went from Sessegnon to, I think it was Doherty who scored the first goal, right? So Calvin Phillips is a very essential part of Bielsa's tactics. And I think the injury of Calvin Phillips is the biggest reason for Leeds' downfall this season. I was very sad that he left, because as a football fan, I wish he was still there, because if they survive relegation this year, Leeds can certainly come back and, one or two signings and be a strong team again. So it's unfortunate that he had to go.
Yep. Yeah, we're straight into a double game week for them, and we'll see how they perform. No one's looking at their defensive assets, but we'll come on to some of their attacking ones in a second. Looking at data over the last 6, Chelsea are in 3rd. So again, it's strong, really strong defensive numbers from Chelsea. They're 18th on the fixture ticker rating that I put together as well, a little bit. I mean, it's based on stats, but also a little bit on my own interpretation of the fixtures. It's quite hard because I've had to go back so bloody far to find the last 6 matches for Chelsea. It's not that easy. Also, I will mention at this point, all of the Chelsea stats are a little bit off. I mean, Havertz, for example, has barely started any matches, but he started the last 5 games now, like in the Club World Cup and FA Cup, and no, not the FA Cup, in the Carabao Cup, sorry. So just bear that in mind, that a lot of the stats were from quite a while ago, but we can only work with kind of what we've got. Moving down the list, though, Newcastle in 5th, which I thought was quite impressive. We talk about how and in the attacking impetus he's put in. They're 2nd on the ticker, so it's been good fixtures for them, but I wouldn't have expected to see Newcastle 5th out of all teams in the league for defensive numbers. 107.6 minutes per expected, goals conceded non-penalty. So less than 1 goal a match, which is, a far cry from their season data, which is 60.3, for example. Surprised at that, Pras? Eddie Howe tightening things up?
I think Newcastle are, as you mentioned, with the new signings, they're a lot better. They have a system going. We remember Eddie Howe from Bournemouth as not a defense-first manager, and I don't think Newcastle are that. It's just that they have talent on the pitch, and it's just looking better. So there is fixtures are a little bit to play with it, but I think their double right now in 28 isn't bad either. So to back somebody from Newcastle, I mean, we'll come to more players from that team, but I think that, and you'll come to Wolves in a second as well. Those are the 2 teams that actually stood out to me in this table.
Yep. Nice. In 11th, you got Southampton, who are also 11th on the ticker. So again, just comfortably mid-table, but we're going to see some impressive attacking stats from them in a sec. Villa are surprising, right down in 12th, despite being 5th on the ticker. So, investing in their defence at the moment might not be the most prudent approach, I say, as a Dean owner. Watford are climbing up to 13th and 6th. Well, this one then, Andy, 16th. Is Wolves. Okay, their fixtures have been quite tough in 17th, but they've started to concede more goals, haven't they? Like the late minute, 2 kind of, well, they couldn't score against Arsenal, conceded in that game. They conceded against them in the kind of game after that. They've lost now again to West Ham. They've got a really good double game week coming up. Are you a little bit put off by their defenders due to this data, or still confident they're going to keep cleans?
I think they're completely fine. Maybe you don't double up. You don't need Saw plus one more size, for example. I think 1 is fine. And I think you could rely on their defensive prowess to keep a clean sheet, at least 1 out of the 2. So I wouldn't be too worried at all.
Okay, good. That's what everyone wants to hear, I think. Norwich down in 19th. 15th on the ticker, kind of where you expect them to be, but still poor. And then Leeds, right at the bottom. A minute per expected goal conceded every 42.9 minutes. So they're basically expected to concede 2 goals every game they play at the moment. I mean, that's why Bielsa's gone, because they're effectively starting every game 2 goals down, and they're struggling to score as well. And they've, Rafinha's bench and out of favour. It's all just a bit of a mess. So I think you can see why the change has been made. Let's take a look at the attack. So again, Chelsea high on this list, highest of all the doublers this week. They're in 6th, 63.1 minutes per expected goal, non-penalty. And then Southampton in 9th over the season, which is good for them. And then it's a little bit disappointing, really, when you look at the attacking options that we've got on show. You've got Leeds in 14th, Villa in 15th, Wolves in 16th, Watford in 17th, Newcastle in 18th, and then Norwich right down the bottom on 20th. So the majority of teams in this double are not the best attacking sides, really, which is, disappointing when you've got a double like this. But Pras is still better than Burnley, right?
Still better than Burnley, and this is the thing with people who are loading up on players from 28, exactly what you said. And notably, these are also teams that play in 30. Now, obviously, this has changed a little bit from Spurs and West Ham playing as well. So, you have some attacking prowess with Spurs playing in 30. But in the double, you're absolutely right. I think other than Southampton, nobody stands out. And this also then plays into who do you captain, which we will come to.
Well, Andy, look at this. Last 6. The best team over the last 6 of all the teams of the double is Southampton, who are in 4th. And their ticker's 11th. So, bottom half of the table in terms of difficulty. But 4th, that's ahead of Man City. 52.3 minutes per expected goal. I would never have thought I would see Southampton this high. They're really good at the moment, aren't they? You've got to kind of be going into this game with one of Adams or Ward-Prowse, or I don't want to say his name, but bro, yeah, surely.
Yeah, certainly. I think they play a very pressing type of football, and they're very attacking. I think this narrative of, I know we're going to get to it later, of them being a very leaky defensive team, I don't really buy it fully. I still think they're pretty defensively decent. But again, Kyle Walker-Peters bombs up, Livramento bombs up, and I think Pereira also had a good game today, right? So
scored a great goal. Really,
exactly.
Really good goal.
So they're all out attack, and that's a good thing for FPL attacking assets. So Boria Che Adams definitely stands out to me, and certainly to consider.
Yep, agreed. Other double game week teams over the last 6: Newcastle were next in 7th, second on the ticker, like I mentioned. Villa in 8th, Leeds in 10th. So better attack than they are defence, at least. Watford now in 15th. So they have fallen massively under Hodgson in terms of their attack, in the most predictable thing I think we've ever known when an appointment was made with Hodgson coming in. He's tightened up defence, and the attack's now impotent. So if you've still got King and Dennis and these guys, I just wouldn't be too hopeful about their returns. Wolves are in 16th, which is why people are getting fed up with the likes of Jimenez, who was also benched. Chelsea in 17th is interesting. I think it just shows they were really struggling, before all these postponements and going off. They were really struggling to create chances. 18th on the ticker, but a minute per XG non-pen of 103.7, which is actually quite far off Wolves in 16th, which is 94. So it's hard to pick Chelsea attackers. We're going to try that we can suggest and recommend, but really, Pras, it's the defence, isn't it, with Chelsea?
It has
That's
to
where
be.
I'm looking.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
I mean, like you said, with the fixtures, they have in this 6, they've played City, Liverpool, which affects things. But it's also the time where they had this troubles with Lukaku. They have, Ziyech he's coming back into the team, but in this 6 in the Premier League, he wasn't really involved. Mount was, I think, out for a bit as well. So it's a tough one. But yeah, both the X minutes as well as just them being not so powerful in attack as Liverpool or City are, just means to go for the defense.
Yep, absolutely. You gonna have any Chelsea players, Andy? Any plans?
I'm thinking hard about it. I have Thiago Silva
talk
in
you
mind.
into on this stream?
Oh yeah, I'm very excited to hear your opinion. By the way, when you were speaking on Watford and Dennis and King, Pras, I did notice you smirking at me. So don't you? You're not getting.
Have you got both?
I've got both. Yeah. I've got both. He's been.
That's the problem with the free hit, isn't it? You have that lovely team, and then next week it's like, oh no, I've got King and Dennis again.
If anybody, if any of the listeners have King and Dennis, in King and Dennis we believe this game week. So let's go.
My smirk was exactly this: that every week Andy says, "I believe in King and Dennis," and it's just there's nothing to back this up. But anyway,
they just keep getting doubles. They just keep getting doubles. You can never get rid of them. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's just it's tough to get rid of a player that plays a double. So a decision to be made. I think I'm going to move on King possibly, but in terms of Chelsea assets, Mendy's firmly in my radar. One of the reasons is, not because maybe he's the best defensive asset, but just because of my team structure, he makes sense to me. And I'm very convinced by Thiago Silva. I think, Rudiger is the popular nailed pick, but the more, sort of attacking stats wise, Thiago Silva's right up there with him, and he's much more better at getting bonus. So I think Thiago Silva's a decent shout, and he just got rested, so I assume he plays 20 both games.
Yep. Very nice. Just from one final push on the Chelsea defence, which is almost certainly going to mean they definitely concede against Norwich anyway. I mentioned Chelsea being third for defence over the last 6 and second over the season. Well, Norwich, for their attack, are bottom over the season, 123 minutes per XG non-penalty, and they're bottom over the last 6 as well, 150.4 minutes per XG non-pen. I mean, they cannot create chances, and with Ida injured, they've lost, an actually really good attacking option. So all the signs point to a Chelsea clean sheet in that game, which almost certainly means it's going to be 1-1, 2-1 or something like that.
They did to Luton, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. Well, exactly. Luton are a good attacking side in the Championship, so I wasn't too surprised that they conceded in that game. But I would be surprised if they conceded to Norwich based on these stats. Okay, that's the kind of optimistic part. We're going to talk through some player data now. I'm going to present the overall player data, and we're going to move on from it quite quickly because it's pretty grim reading for anyone trying to get excited about this double game week. This is player data over the season, 1 to 30. At the top is Salah. That's absolutely no surprise to anyone. 108.8 minutes per XGI non-pen, 21 minutes per shot, which is the best in the league. Next is Jota. Next is Mane. Firstly, how ridiculous is it that 3 Liverpool midfielders, or listed as midfielders, are the top 3 in terms of their attack? It's crazy, Pras, isn't it? I mean, they're just so good attacking.
They're relentless. They're absolutely relentless. And the number of chances they get as a team, Salah being lethal as well this season, they're just scoring goals. And this is basically what we all wished City was, right? I mean, that you have a couple of nailed options that you can rely on as comfort blankets, captain them. And Liverpool gives us that. I mean, Jota is a question mark now, given how well Diaz is playing and Firmino being fit. But I think both Salah, Mane, if Mane was 9.5, 10 million, what a season this would have been, right? We would have had a second option and kind of have a differential against Salah or possibly a second semi-premium.
Yep. I mean, they scored, 42 goals between them? These three players. They're the top 3 scoring players in the league. Salah 19, Jota 12, and then Mane 11. And then you've got Sterling on 10. It's just so many goals they score, and they're not even top of the league because Man City are top. The reason why this is a depressing list, though, Andy, is because you can see there's only one player out of the top 30 who has a double game week, unless we're including Fabio Silva, which we're not because he probably won't play, and no one's going to get Fabio Silva. I don't even bother to highlight him. But it's Mason Mount. Mason Mount in 18th is the only one on this list who's got a double. Is that good news for him? I mean, before we came on the stream, actually, Andy, you did mention Werner. Is Werner an option? Well, he's there in 30th. Can you make a case for him?
You can't do this to me right now, Az. I'll tell you a funny story.
Not at 6 o'clock in the morning.
6:46 in the morning, guys. But funny story about Werner is, I think it was game week 8. I was on a wild card, 8 or 9, can't remember. And I had Son in, and I believe he got COVID or something. There was like this rumor about him getting COVID, and somehow I think Lukaku was out too. And I got Werner in, and I got Werner and Lukaku both in, and both of them got injured midweek. Do you remember that?
I do. I think Late Riser do the same as well. I think he
maybe. Yeah. So I have some bad memories with Timo, but it's just that upside, I feel like if he can finish, he's very tempting. And what's for sure is Tuchel likes to play the combo of Lukaku plus Werner. Listen, I'm not going to go there. I'm just saying, he's a good player, maybe not the best FPL option. Yeah.
So Andy's buying Werner. That's good.
No, I'm not.
That's one way of overtaking him.
What about Mount though?
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously the one kind of. I mean, 2 massive chances missed in the Carabao Cup final. Played the full 90 tonight. We're going to keep talking about him because he's the one that all the stats kind of point to. Yeah. Would you be worried about his minutes at all in these two weeks?
That would be the thing. He's played 90 now. Tuchel was talking about overload, and he's just come back from an injury as well. And I think had Ziyech been okay, he wouldn't have played 90 minutes today. So it's a bit like, because of Ziyech being injured, he's had to take the load this FA Cup. And so I would be worried about the minutes, but I don't hate anybody going for it. But
no.
There's just so many other options, even though they're not in this table, in midfield, that you want for the longer run. I mean, if you have Salah, possibly Son, you have Rafinha, you have Saka, you have Coutinho, you have the cheaper guys like Ramsey. They're not on this list, but they just make sense because of doubles, playing in 30, potential games after that.
Yep.
So it's just a tough one.
Yep. Just for people asking in the chat, all the stats presented on this are from Fantasy Football Scouts. there is a link in the description below. If you want to join, sign up as a member. You can do all the player comparisons and tables and all of this stuff. It's where I've always got all my data from, and obviously Mark, because he founded the website. So head over to there if you're interested. Okay, let's take a look at the last 6 then. There's one name on this one, and it's not Mason Mount. Again, though, it is grim reading for people investing in this double game week. The only player to feature in the top 30 for minutes per expected goal involvement, non-pen, of the double game week players is my best mate, my new best mate, Che Adams, who's obviously going to destroy Broya. And yeah, whisper that. You don't have to whisper that. You can shout that as much as you want. So I was really hoping to be like, oh, look at all these amazing, attacking options that we can consider based on their XGI. There isn't any. And then you look at the attacking data of the teams with doubles, and that's also really disappointing as well. So I guess my message is, obviously we're going to try and find some great picks and try and work out the best caps and all this kind of stuff. But Andy, would you be completely surprised if this was a bit of a damp squib of a game week?
What do you mean? As in difficult to?
Well, just disappointing. It looks really exciting, and then it comes along, and everyone gets about 45 points.
Like
surely not.
I don't know. I haven't thought about it that way. I've been more concerned about who to bench because I have such solid fixtures in all 50. I guess 14 or 15 players. So I don't know. Hopefully, maybe it's a bad week. Maybe it's a good week. But so is everybody else. So let's see.
Okay, that's relatively optimistic for things. I'll take that. Right, as I said, this is the kind of negative part. Now we're going to focus on players by position, and we can now start to find the real gems. I'm gonna take Andy. Andy wasn't quite as optimistic as I thought he might be, but sort of semi-optimistic. We'll take that. It's better than me. Let's take a look at goalkeepers to start with. So again, I've highlighted the players on here that have got the doubles. You've got Dubravka on there, who's actually, I think, third high. No, he's not. I keep getting this wrong. Minutes per base on bonus, the high number, the worst. So he's not actually very good for getting base on bonus. Got that wrong last time and it was stupid. But his minutes per save is good, 38.6. But look at Melié's. I mean, Melié's making a save every 18 minutes. He's also getting the quickest baseline bonus as well. His XG prevented is absolutely horrid, minus 5.3 over the last 6. So basically, should have prevented 5 goals for Leeds, given the amount that they've conceded isn't too sort of depressing. But obviously, no one's considering Meslier. The defence's numbers aren't good. But if we do think this manager's going to come in and sort Leeds out, we could potentially see Meslier become an option. He was a great option last year, for example, even though Leeds didn't keep too many clean sheets. The amount of saves he makes has always boosted him. So just one to watch. It's Sarr, though, really, I think, is the standout keeper. I mean, you look at Mendy. I mean, minutes per save for Mendy, 41.5. That's basically really low. I mean, it's the same as Alisson and Edison all the time with top goalkeepers. Fabianski is interesting, 60 minutes per save for Fabianski. And same with Ramsdale as well. So just not getting called into action that much. But Jose Sarr, 24.5. I think that's third best in the league. Minutes per base on bonus of 5.2. That's really high as well. Andy, would you agree he's kind of best option this week and potentially going forward as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Pras?
Look, I think this week I agree, but that's more fixture driven. It's more the fact that they play Crystal Palace and Watford, with the data that we've just seen, should be a secure clean sheet. I mean, you never know, but I always worry about this data that's showing that Wolves is actually really declining in terms of defensiveness, solidity. And I obviously have Sarr and Ramsdale. So I went double premium on my wildcard because I wanted to bench boost this week and thinking that Ramsdale will also double. And I'm in a real dilemma who I want for the rest of the season. I think Sarr is good for the next 3, or actually for 28 and 30 because he has the better 30 fixture. But after that, I'm just not convinced. Even though Sarr has decent fixtures other than 33 and 36, one of which I'll free hit. So actually there's a good option for me to keep Sarr. I just think Ramsdale is the guy. He's the guy. Save machine. He was top of the last 6 data that you showed in defense. why not go for Ramsdale when he's cheaper for us? I mean, I still have him from game week 1, 4.5 million. So I think sale value is 4.8. I still think he's the guy to keep. But for this week itself, I think to answer your question, I think Sa is the best keeper to have just because of the fixtures.
It's interesting with goalkeepers that, minutes per save, 60 for Ramsdale. You can look at that in two ways. You can say, well, he's not making many saves, not getting many points. But then you can also look at it, well, he's not having to make many saves, and his XG prevented is minus 0.3. So it's about where it should be. I know it's in the minuses, but he's not letting in loads of goals, not having to make loads of saves. Arsenal are really good defensively, and like you mentioned, Wolves, the defensive data being on decline. I think I would also go for Ramsdale. Going forward, and probably until the end of the season. Anyway, no one's here for us to talk about keepers, but always interesting to cover a little bit. Let's talk about defenders. Defenders over the last 6. So we are basically never going to lose Matt Doherty now. He is top, 133.5 minutes per XGI non-penalty. As someone correctly pointed out in the chat, it's higher than Kane. At the moment, he's just absolutely flying. Reguilon's next, 191. The first double game week player on here is Reece James. Obviously, that goes back to when he was fit and not injured, and it might take him a little bit of time to get back to that, but it just shows his attacking stats are really, really, really good. And if a fit Reece James, a Reece James that's going to play the double, surely is the best attacking option and defensive option of Chelsea. Would you agree with that, Andy?
Yeah, I think it's the key here is if you're on a wild card, you go for Reece James. If you're not on a wild card, I would hesitate to go to Reece James, because for me, the concept here is this, right? The reason why you go for Reece James in a wild card is you're likely going to double up on the Chelsea defense. And I guess part of my, FPL philosophy, so call it, is to sort of really attack the strong teams in a wild card and be ahead of the template when everyone's trying to catch up. And in 2-3 game weeks time, Reece James might become a very, very popular option. However, if you look at the Tuchel's comments in the press conference, I think, previous to the previous game, he was saying something like he was overworked. I know he made a cameo today, but, he's coming back into the fold. He's coming back into the team. And believe it or not, I think Reece James' potential is hindered a little bit with the absence of Ben Chilwell, because Chilwell is that important to how they attacked earlier in the season. We're both wing backs, we're bombing forward. And, when you have balanced attack on the left and right, it makes both sides very, potent options. So I think we saw a little bit of a decline in Reece James towards maybe 19, 20, 21, that kind of little era. I would hesitate to go Reece James right now if that's the only Chelsea move to make.
Interesting, because I'm on the free hit, so I've got Rudiger in, and then you mentioned Thiago Silva, who I think's he's a really good option. If you look at the attacking data over the last 6 games, and again, like I keep saying with Chelsea, this is going back a long time. I mean, Rudiger's in 70th. So a lot of people who are saying, oh, Rudiger's got that real goal potential. Well, he hasn't really. I mean, you're lucky. He's like any other centre-back. You're lucky to get something from him.
We're blinded by the 2 attacking returns he had, in the 2 games, Leicester and Leeds early in the season, and then he hasn't had any since. So, sometimes these narratives are in the back of our heads and we just don't really challenge it. So
no, exactly. I mean, Thiago Silva's 107th, so he's like right. I had to really look for him. He's so far down. But in terms of minutes per shot, I mean, Rudiger's at 180, and Thiago Silva's 167.3. So you can expect a shot from them once every 2 games. Essentially, that's what you're getting with the Chelsea defense. But obviously, you get the clean sheets. As well. Pras, I'll come to you on Southampton. Walker Peters is in 8th. He's, kind of outside of Chelsea. He's the kind of the best looking option from an attacking percentage, from attacking wise. 77.1 minutes per chance created is better than Livramento, for example, who's 156.3. Obviously now Livramento also has the added problem of Perrault being there and available and playing really well. He was dropped for Livramento, but it was a bit 50-50 as to whether he'd start. But Pras started again. They've won. He scored. I'd be a bit concerned, I think, as a Livramento owner. Would you?
For sure. I mean, the thing with it, with the double game week is it's just, you don't even have to be, a first teamer. You could still miss one of the games because of the short time space between the 2 games. So once you have competition, it's just I definitely agree with you. I wouldn't be confident as a Livramento owner of getting both starts. But Walker Peters looks really, really good. I mean,
He does, doesn't he?
He got an assist tonight as well.
Yeah.
And in the game that most free hitters had him for, he was so electric. I mean, he should have got more. He had that shot in the box as well, which he almost scored, which hit the keeper. He's a good one. It's going to go back to meta strategy for people. Now, given today's results, Southampton will not play in game week 30. So people will think, do I really want to invest in somebody who will double sure, but then 29 is fine, I may not start them, and then 30 they don't have a game. That will play into it. But otherwise, I think, Southampton both defensively are okay, but it's more the fact that they give attacking potential, which is appealing.
I think Southampton now blanking 30 probably confirms the wild card for me next week, rather than, because I was kind of thinking of free hitting this week and wild carding next week anyway, but there was a part of me was like, maybe I should just wild card this week and save the free hit. But it means I can go quite hard on Southampton for this double, and then wildcard next week, and then I can just ignore them pretty much because they're not going to have that game or the double. So it's kind of suited my strategy quite well. Cause
I don't know if anyone's talked about this, but the Burnley Southampton game that's in 30, it could equally move to 29. Maybe it's not enough time, but there is a slot.
Okay,
so
that'd be interesting.
But we'll see how when that is announced and if that is announced. But if that happens, then Southampton would have a double, and we have another Burnley double coming up in 29.
Oh
but
God,
TBD.
We're all so sick of Burnley bloody double game weeks. Clearly can't have any more. Mentioning Villa, so the top defensive sort of from an attacking sense from Villa is Tyrone Mings, which I was surprised at. 418.6 minutes per expected goal involvement. Got to go quite far down to 30th to find Cash. And then even further down to 36th to find Dean, which is massively disappointing because Dean's now, he's kind of getting over that Everton phase when he was doing nothing. And he's now had a decent run for Villa, and I'd expect him to be much higher up on this list from there. And then Alonso in 27th as well. Can either of you make a case for Alonso? I can't. No. Moving on.
I mean, he got a full rest tonight. So if somebody has Alonso, I think they're in a decent spot that they should just start and hope for the best. But even Chelsea fans just say, look, Tuchel doesn't trust him. No. He keeps going back to this 4 at the back where Saul plays on the left. He wasn't good at all tonight, but you just never know with Alonso.
No. A few comments from the chat. Miano Sidon, why does Alonso have a different colour than the other Chelsea players? I'd love to say it's because I thought he wasn't an option, but I think I just forgot and did the wrong colour. That's the kind of professionalism you get with this podcast. Doy says 6 a.m. for Sonaldo. What dedication. Absolutely. We love having you, Andy. Thanks for agreeing it. You were willing to do it at 5 a.m. I was the one that pushed it back an hour. So just saying. And there was one other comment, which was, I can't even find it now. Is the Chelsea double game week confirmed? Yeah, because it was basically penciled in. That was the other one. And the other thing is we've got basically 1,200 people watching live. So thank you all for tuning in and listening to us. If you'd like to support the channel, just subscribe to it. Like this video as well. And if you want to support Pras and Sonaldo, you can check out their Burning Questions series, which is on Wednesday. And if you subscribe to Fancy Football Scout as well, you'll get notifications for that. And you can also follow them on Twitter at Pras_FPL and at FPL_Sonaldo. Do that as well. Right. Midfielders. Now we're getting to the fun part.
Like a pro there, as like a pro.
Yes, I know. Mark will be proud of me. Yeah, smash that like button. Yeah. You do that on your stream, by the way? I've got to get you.
I've been learning from you. I've been implementing a little bit, I guess learning from the great ass.
I love this stream. This is great. I need to have you on here more, Andy. Come on, Pras, you have to step up a bit. I need a few compliments from my.
Yeah. We should do the please everyone like this. We don't do it enough.
Yeah, no.
It does work actually. You do see the likes kind of increasing quite a lot, which is nice. Right. Last 6 midfielders. Okay, so basically in the top 19, there's not really anyone interesting. Salah's top, obviously. We talked about his top of all players. Interestingly, the first double game week player from midfielders is someone who I've currently got in my free hit draft, which is Ryan Fraser. Now, I did not expect to have Ryan Fraser in my team at any point this season. I did not expect to have Ryan Fraser in my team when Eddie Howe joined because they had a big falling out, I thought, when he basically refused to play for Bournemouth during the COVID time. But I mean, minute per chance created for Fraser is 42, which is only bettered by, I think, a handful of players kind of in the league. A shot in the box every 72 minutes, I mean, isn't amazing, but it's not bad for him. But minutes per shot of 45.8 isn't too bad either. He's starting as well, pretty much every game, getting called off around the 80-minute mark. I know a lot of people are debating Fraser versus Willock. Well, Willock's down in 46th. He has a shot more often, Willock, 32.3 compared to 45.8. But the chances created just aren't there, 96.8. Andy, would you go for Fraser?
I love Fraser.
You love Fraser. There you go.
I love Fraser.
Here we go.
Yeah. If I was going for a Newcastle midfielder, I think he would be right up there. XGI is great. I think last 6, he's at the top of XGI in Newcastle. Newcastle are turning things around. Again, we're trying to break this narrative that they're a bad team because they're showing signs of being a decent team the last few game weeks. And so with their double-double, it's very enticing, very cheap price point enabler. You can just kind of keep him here for the next few and then just bench him forever, right? Or maybe you ship him out. But the great thing about Fraser is the fact that he pushes up super high from what I've noticed. So I just like the positioning, the zonal positioning that he is in the final third. So I think he's a good shout. Maverick, for sure.
I like him because you've got options around him as well. If you do get stuck with him, we've got Jacob Ramsey there, kind of in 33rd. You've got Gordon of Everton, who's at 4-5 and has got some double game weeks coming out. You've got Martinelli as well. Like, it's always worrying when you go for like a 5.3 mid and then you just get stuck with it. You've never got the money to upgrade them and it's all a bit of a nightmare. But I do feel like you can kind of escape him if it's bad. And he's ahead of Mount, Pras. Look at that. Mount's in 25th. So Fraser, out of all midfielders, is statistically the best double game week option this week.
Destroy him, Matt Pras.
I'm not buying it. No. His last 6 have got Watford, Leeds, Brentford, Everton. I mean, fine. He's okay. For the price, he's fine. But I go back to the midfield, a position for somebody to earn a slot in the midfield. They have to be better than just good numbers because, as I said, midfield is a very crowded space. And if you're going for Fraser, who are you not going for? Rafinha or... So maybe the Ramsey slot.
You're going to love who I'm not going for.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm taking Trent out for him.
On the free hit. Yeah, maybe. Fine.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But look, that's the thinking that non-free hitters or basically people who have to continue the team have to think about. I personally think Ramsey's double is better. And then Gordon's double is better. Obviously, it uses up a transfer. These are all similar price players. And then the thing with Willock is he's a little bit streaky. We saw this last year as well. He's just getting into it. And this wasn't the case in the beginning of the 6-game period that we're talking about. So at the moment, I'm on the fence. If I was going for a Newcastle player, it'd probably be Saint Maximin. But I know we're talking about midfielders here. He's fine. But I wouldn't call him the best midfield option in the double game week.
I mean, it's good that someone's talking sense on BlackBox because if all 3 of us were agreed that Fraser was like the second coming of De Bruyne or something, it might be a bit of a worry. But I am also a bit disappointed that you've shot down Ryan Fraser. I do think at some point in the chat as well, Willock's got 2 in 2. He's a streaky player. He looks better. He looks the more likely to get a goal, and the stats do bear that out. I mean, he takes more shots more regularly than Fraser, for example. And another great comment in the chat was, Fraser might have good assist potential, but who's he creating chances for? Chris Wood and Joe Linton. Yeah. I mean, that is the other issue with him. So the question mark of who to go with Fraser or Willock, I think is an interesting one because I think both could do well this game week. I've got Fraser at the moment, but I do also like Willock. I mean, we saw what Willock can do at the end of last season. For example, when he was scoring, we've got like 4 or 5 in a row, didn't he? Towards the at the end of the season. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Southampton midfielders, Eli Anusi is 27th on the list. He's actually the best performing statistically Southampton midfielder. You've then got Ward-Prowse down in 39th. He's always quite disappointing. I mean, look at that. he's pretty much the only player on this list without a big chance, basically, over the last 6. So you're very much reliant on those set piece goals and then deliveries from him, as we all know. Stuart Armstrong's down there as well in 48th. I don't think anyone's going to be going for that. Andy, any Southampton mids? It's all about Broja and Adams, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think I would touch the mids. It's interesting you mentioned Elusi. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Elanusi, because he looked fantastic the last game, right? The last Premier League game. But apparently he has 0 goals at home so far. So that statement in itself should assuage you away from going near him. So the only options for me are KWP. Livramento now is in my team, but a rotation risk. So I'm very interested in Broja over Che Adams. I love Che Adams. I think he's a good shout. But, for a 5.3 now, enabler price point, it's just easy to bench, right? So I do want Broja in my team.
I think Elyounoussi, though, if you've got a free hit and like me, Trent's a safe move. But if you want to go for a double who no one's going to have potentially in a free hit, I think Fraser Willock or Elyounoussi you could grab one of them and just have a bit of fun with it because you're never going to own them again, realistically. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind them. Pras, I'll come over to you with Villa assets. So Jacob Ramsey is actually the best performing mid, 33rd. Coutinho, who a lot of people are backing on, is down in 41st. I mean, he's had basically one really good game from an FPL perspective. He's been dropping deeper a bit in the last few games as well. Gerrard's now switched to Watkins and Ings up front. Do you think that's a concern for him?
I think no, because from the eye test, I think both Coutinho and Ramsey were looking fine. I know they weren't involved in any of the goals, but I think this move to 2 up top doesn't hurt them at all. I mean, especially Coutinho, who's going to play number 10. And it also makes them more defensively solid. At least that's what Gerrard said at the end of the game. So I'm a little bit more optimistic on Villa because there's some fundamental change that has happened in the last game. And I'm not as convinced that I'd captain Coutinho. I don't think I'm there yet. But I'm hopeful that having either Ramsey or Coutinho or both, as I do in my team, is fine. I mean, given the fixtures again in the double game.
Yep. And my final one I want to talk about is the Chelsea midfielders again. So we mentioned Mount in 25th. Pulisic is next, 45th. Havertz is right down there in 51st. But I think doesn't really reflect his status in the team at the moment. Andy, would you agree that Havertz is first choice?
I don't know. I think he's rotation risk. Maybe he is first choice. I think he's essential to their attack. And we mentioned this on Burning Questions earlier, I guess, 6-7 hours ago, about how Havertz is sort of the key to unlocking their sort of fluidity between Pulisic as well as Mount. And you saw today, Lukaku and Werner started. So there's always those options as well. And so you definitely expect him to get benched, especially with them being in Champions League and everything. But Havertz is very, very important to Chelsea's system, and one of the reasons why they won the Champions League last year. So, it's tough. I mean, if he was 100% nailed, I think I would go for Havertz possibly.
I am very, very tempted by Havertz. I've been really impressed with him. I think the Champions League final goal was one thing. He then scored another goal in the big club World Cup final. And then he has an absolutely brilliant game in the Carabao Cup final. Again, he's clearly a big game player. That wasn't a one-off. And I just think watching those games, he looks so much better in Chelsea's system than Lukaku does. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you mentioned, like you say, the way he brings other players into the game, his touch, his vision. He looks really, really strong. And I think whether he starts always as a 9 or as a false 9 is one thing, but I think they can't drop him at the moment, given how he is, which makes me think he's the one Chelsea mid that I want.
A good shot.
Yeah, I think so. The final player to mention here is Rafinha, who a lot of people are bringing in. He's 40th on the list for minutes per XG non-pen, which is crazy for someone of his ability and for someone of Leeds' attacking status. But I mean, a minutes per big chance for 450 minutes. I mean, that's awful. Minutes per shot, 50. That's pretty rubbish as well. 37.5 minutes per chance created is good. It's even better than Fraser, for example. I think it's one of the best in the league, maybe third or fourth on this list. So yeah, we're all expecting to see a bit of an upturn from Rafinha, but the stats don't massively suggest that he's been brilliant and unlucky not to be getting points, and he's been benched as well a few times. So you've got to think with a new manager coming in, he's going to try and get the best out of him. So something to think about. Forwards, sorry, it gets a bit boring again at this point. We're going to be really, scraping the barrel in some of these. The most important thing to know, though, is out of all the forwards, with a double game week, Che Adams is top. He's 8th on the list out of all forwards. Minutes per XGI non-pen of 160.1, which, isn't amazing, but it's not too bad. 44.1 minutes per shot in the box, which is really nice. 37.3 minutes per shot. Broja, for all those asking, is 22nd of all forwards. Rubbish. 273.3. Apparently he was absolutely incredible tonight, so I'm probably going to be eating these words later. He does have a shot in the box every 36.5 minutes, which is better than Adams, for example. Pras, where do you sit? Broja v Adams?
It's very interesting. If we let go of all the Broja gate from a couple of nights
I'd love
ago,
it if people would let go of that. Great.
I think you have an opportunity now to double up in attack that nobody else would. And I say nobody because now the wildcarders won't double up because they'll be afraid of the 30 blank. So you will actually have the opportunity to have these two that not many will have at all. And for example, if I was planning my team and I've already used my wildcard, I will not go Adams with Broja for the reasons I mentioned. So you have that opportunity to double up in attack that not everyone will have. And look, Adams, they both got a rest tonight. They both should play the double, and they both have an excellent double. So I see no reason, if you were on a free hit just targeting 28, that you go for Adams and Broja up top, because Jimenez is, what for attacking data is looking poor. Even the Wolf fans said that he's not actually rested. He's probably dropped, and maybe he'll play the double, but even then I'm not confident on any returns. Then we're down to Dennis. So
he looks completely off it, Jimenez, in the matches I've seen, just completely off it. I'm going to sound like I'm massively backtracking on what my point about Broja, right? And I will just say this because I got a lot of stick for it. I was a little bit drunk, first of all, which never really helps. My point wasn't so much that for a 5.5 million asset, he's rubbish and no one should have him. My point was the expectation of him has been built up so much that I think a lot of people are having him, in their starting 11s, having a bench around him, wanting to start him every week. And I think the concerns are his underlying stats aren't amazing when you look at this list. He's a 22nd best forward on the list. And I think he doesn't need to be getting double-digit returns every week because that's not what you pay for him. But at the same time, he should kind of tick over quite nicely. My point was more that he might not be the option that, I can't. Basically, everyone loves him. Everyone loves him on Twitter. Everyone loves him on Scout. Everyone thinks he's the greatest player ever. And I don't know if FPL-wise he's going to massively deliver. Like we've seen from other assets around. Look at Mahrez, look at Kane, look at some of these players. I don't think we're going to hit those levels with him. That was my point, anyway. No one will believe me. The one thing that is pushing me towards the double up, like you mentioned, though, and I'll come back to it, is that team data attack, which has Southampton in 4th of all teams. When I did these tables, I had to recheck the stats because I'm just so impressed with that. A minutes per big chance every 31.8 minutes. That's only slightly worse than the Man City. It's the same as like Spurs. You look at like Newcastle, 67.5 minutes per big chance. Villa, 60. Leeds, 57.3. Chelsea's 90. Like, if you're looking at purely a team attack, Southampton are by far the best team to invest in, attacking-wise, for this double. So, getting the right attacking Southampton options probably is a priority for a lot of people, I think. Coming back to the forwards, you talked about Maximan. Whether he's fit or not is one thing, but he's in 14th. He's the next one. Jimenez is 16th, and he's been rubbish. And he's even ahead of Dennis in 18th, and ahead of King. Sorry, Andy. King 27th. 27. It's hard to even name 27 forwards in the league, but there's King 27th. 30th is Ings. 33rd is Lukaku over the last 6. I mean, 90 plus million pounds they spent on him. And 40th, okay, he hasn't paid very much, is Rodrigo. I just know a few people have been mentioning whether they think Rodrigo is going to be an option under the new manager. We don't know, and the stats are awful, so don't try and be too clever on that. Hwang's in 24th, which is a bit disappointing. I thought he played really well though in the last game that he started. He's a good player. I really like him, and you know him well, Sanders. He's Son's teammate, right?
I mean, quick word, right? The attacking stats as a team, Wolves is very low, as we all know, and that's part of the reason why Hwang Hee-chan's probably lower in the table there. But after his injury and layoff, the last 2 games he's been really, really good. So I think one to watch out for. I wouldn't jump on him. He's not going to deliver a lot of goals, but a decent shout at 5.4. So one to consider.
Would you rather have him over Dennis or King?
Oh, for sure. No doubt about it. Yeah.
Yep. Pras, anyone else on this list that you like? I mean, Watkins is 21st.
Watkins was the one I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah. Eddie, what do you make of him? He's very frustrating, right?
He is, but I go back to the new formation, and if he's going to play with Ings, number one, that reduces the X minutes risk because both of them should start, and it was always this risk that Ings plays and Watkins doesn't. And the second thing is, it's again the fact that there's a dearth of people that you can go for as strikers, especially those who are not on free hit. So going for a Villa player who also play in 30, I think more people will go Watkins on wildcard now and not Adams for the reasons I mentioned because of game week 30.
There will be people shouting at this podcast, but don't get Watkins, anyone but Watkins. He's just one of those players who, if you've owned him and you've been burnt, similar to me with Mopé, when you've just been burnt that many times by him hitting the post or getting, I mean, that benching was harsh, wasn't it? There's one player like basically completely absent from this list, which is Calvert-Lewin. I wonder if he's going to be a factor for us going forward. But I mean, you talk about Watkins burning his owners. I mean, Calvert-Lewin early adopters are just have been burnt more than anyone. So yeah, if you've still got him, then I think pretty much anyone on this list other than Lukaku will probably serve you well.
I mean, there's also Vardy here. Before you go on.
Yes, there is.
So Vardy, maybe not an option 28, 29, 30, or maybe actually from 30. He could be the guy, your second attacker alongside a Kane or somebody. But I think he'll come into a lot of teams alongside Maddison later. Absolutely,
because if you look at the remaining fixtures, Leicester have got the most games to be rescheduled, and Norwich and Everton are 2 of them. So 2 really, really nice games for Leicester. And I think that's where saving the free hit, or if you've got another free hit to use, maybe not using it in 30 and saving it for when Leicester have a double game week. Any double game week in which Leicester have Norwich at home, if that's paired with another good fixture, going in on Barnes, Maddison, and Vardy potentially, could be something that no one else has got or considered. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show is basically a little cheat sheet that I put together. This took me so bloody long to do. It was ridiculous today. I hope it's useful. Let's just trim that down a little bit. So what I basically did was I took all the players that have got a double game week and I sorted them by minutes per XGI non-pen. And then what I did was I looked at their opponents to see who they've got. And I basically added their 2 fixture ticker scores together and then divided it by 2 to give like a kind of average. And then I assigned everyone based on the minutes per XGI. So the top player got 30 because I looked at the top 30 and the bottom player got 1. And then I added the 2 scores together. So basically, if you were top of the list, you got 30. And then if your fixtures were easy, there'd be a higher score for that as well. Does that make sense? 2 glazed looks. Basically, the higher the score, the better they perform on the minutes per XGI non-pen, plus the easier their opponents are. And then I assign that across the whole board. So looking at the data and the opponents combined, Mount comes out on top. So he's got a score of 40. I won't even bother reading the scores out. But basically, Mount's the top option this week. If we knew that Mount was going to play 90 minutes in both games, he would be my captain based on this. We don't know that. That's the problem. So then I think, well, maybe Havertz is that option because his stats have been improving. He's playing that false nine. He's down in kind of 19th. Adams is second, though, on the list. I just think he's a great option to pick. And I think there's ways of moving towards him. So I think one of Havertz or Mount, Adams. But then what's really interesting is in third is Jacob Ramsey. Now, are we both getting Coutinho? Oh, sorry, not both. Are we all getting Coutinho? Andy?
I have Ramsey in my team already.
You've got, and have you got, and are you getting Coutinho as well?
No. I'm happy with Ramsey.
Are you captaining Ramsey?
I have no idea who I'm captaining. Yeah, but no. I'm all ears. As we mentioned it early in the podcast, I listen to everybody. So talk to me. As well, why should I be captaining Ramsey?
Well, the data suggests that Ramsey outperforms Coutinho statistically over the last 6. Yeah. So if I'm looking at purely at data and someone asked me who to buy out of Ramsey or Coutinho, I would say Ramsey. And obviously the same then with the captaincy. If they were different price, say Coutinho was 4.3 or whatever Ramsey is, 4.8, and Ramsey was the 7 million mid, do you think that would change our thinking on it, Pras? Do you think can we captain a 4.8 million mid?
Yeah, I think pricing comes into it a lot. The reason why a lot of us aren't capable of maybe captaining defenders, for example, we just think, how can I captain somebody who's 5.5 mil? But in midfielders, equally priced, absolutely. I mean, we saw this with Jota. The week that Salah was out and Jota was, I think, well captained, but not many did, simply because he's an 8 million mid, and how can he not captain a premium? So I think it definitely comes into the thinking.
But it's flawed thinking though, right, Andy?
Yeah.
Maybe possibly flawed thinking, but there's a reason why players are more expensive and players are less expensive. That's the value of the player, right? But someone in the chat mentioned Sam says who's everyone captaining this game week so skewed. That's actually a good thing, right? Because then we don't have a wild horse sort of captain this week where outstanding EO is going to affect or hurt our rank, maybe, possibly, but I think it's going to be very spread out. So this is like one of those weeks where the damage isn't too bad and you can sort of really, trust your gut and go for somebody that you sort of believe in. So, Ramsey for me versus Coutinho, I wouldn't even think about the price point. I think Ramsey, Coutinho, there's very little price difference. FPL just priced Coutinho whatever he was when he first came into the league a couple weeks or 2 months ago or whatever, right? And also one thing that worries me about Ramsey is his positioning. He's playing a little bit deeper, and Villa have a tendency to sit back once, for example, they get the lead or such. So I'm not sure about his explosiveness. He's also very, the points come every 2-3 games, 3-4 games. So, it's a tough call, but we'll see.
Yep. No, it is
one
a tough
thing
call.
I'd say. Sorry,
yep. No, go.
I was going to say one thing that, and I'm not giving extra homework, but one thing we could overlay on this is basically clean sheet potential. So obviously we're looking at it as XGI only. And if you were to really look at options for the double game week, and if you wanted to add captaincy into the mix, then basically you need to add a 8-point floor to Chelsea assets and maybe a 6 to 7 point floor for.
It's funny you say that. Because
the next slide.
No. Because I was going to do that. But honestly, this table took me so long that I just ran out of time to do it. What I will say, though, is that there are a couple of options on this table which I was quite surprised. Maybe not so surprised. Reece James is on there, for example, 15th. So he's ahead of the likes of Dennis, Broja, some of these kind of popular options. You've also got Walker Peters there, down in 24th as well. Bednarek there, 28th, and Livramento. So although they're kind of on the lower half of this kind of cheat sheet table, they're also boosted by the fact that those clean sheets can come in as well, which could actually take them a bit higher up on the list. But yeah, Rafinha's there in 14th as well. I just think it's just interesting when you look at this list because there's names here that I wasn't really expecting to be considering. I mean, Adams, Ramsey, Fraser, Elianusi, even Dan James, his stats are good and he's playing kind of out of position. And this is what I mean, if people are using their free hits, this is the time to take a bit of a risk. So I think even though the data doesn't suggest that these teams are going to score bag loads of goals, I think there's enough here. The fixtures are still good for quite a few of these teams to indicate that there could be some big returns if you're brave enough to go with someone a bit different, which is why I think I'm going to start with Reece James, because I think there is potential there for big hauls with him that I can, take the punt on. Anyway, hope that's useful. And Havertz as well is someone who he's low down on this list. I'm down in 19th, but as like I said, he has started the last 5 games. His last 6 data goes back to game week 14 because he was injured for a while. He's had 5 starts in these 6 appearances, playing in a variety of different roles. So his data's like not really right. This doesn't really reflect, I don't think, how good an option he is. Anyway, right. That is pretty much all the data that I've got now. So hopefully that's clear. I will write an explanation of this table as well in the chat because I could tell from your faces I didn't explain it very well, which is a shame. My years as a stats lecturer at Birmingham University have all been wasted, it seems. I mean, to be fair, Andy, it's like 6:30, more 7 o'clock now for you, so I can't really blame you. Over to the predictions. We'll cover this quite quickly to try and keep this under 2 hours. Just thanks to FPL Pot Noodle, as always. 249 matches he's now recorded from Mark and I. Mark is now leading me in 2 categories, which is very disappointing. Correct scores, 9.6% for Mark, and correct clean sheets, 43.5% for Mark. But I'm still leading Mark in the correct outcomes, which of course is the most important one. 51.8% over the season, which I'm actually quite happy with. I think 50% is not bad. Mark's at 47. So let's cover the fixtures. Like I said, we'll try and go through these fairly quickly. So it's the first of the first 2 games for Leeds. They're away at Leicester. I've gone for a 2-2. Mark's gone for a 2-1 to Leicester. So is Pras, and Snowdo's matched me with a 2-2. Main thing is, though, we're expecting goals in this, right?
Absolutely. And no clean sheets, essentially.
And no clean sheets. Are we overlooking Leicester? I mean, this is pretty much the 2 worst defensive teams in the league, so it's not a huge surprise. Are we overlooking Leicester a bit, Andy? Maddison?
I think Maddison looked pretty good yesterday. Granted, it was a FA Cup game, so possibly he comes into the fold, and I think Vardy's an interesting shout as well. So maybe we go there, but not right now for me. Yeah.
The second game is then Villa a bit later on. I've actually gone for a Leeds win in this, 2-1. You've all been a bit less optimistic. Mark 1-0, Pras 2-1, Villa, Sonaldo 2-1. So again, goals for both teams. Villa's other game, myself and Pras have gone for 1-1s. Mark's gone for 2-1. Oh, Sonaldo's gone for 1-0 as well. We've all gone for a 1-1, Villa, Southampton. So we're kind of expecting a goal a game really for Villa. It's not amazing considering they've got Leeds in one of those matches. We're not expecting them to score like 4 or 5 goals that we've seen in other games. What are you thinking, Pras? You gonna captain a Villa player?
This is the thing. I'm not confident because they haven't impressed attacking wise, and even like you said, we're predicting 2 or 3 goals max in the double. You could get lucky and hit a goal and assist, but I personally have Ramsey and Coutinho, and I think that's enough exposure. I don't want to add another captaincy to the mix, and for that reason, I might avoid. But I think the games are such. Both we've talked about the Southampton game. I think Southampton, we've talked about how well they're playing, but it's going to be an open game, so you just never know. A couple of goals, and then it becomes a really open one as well. So I think we're being cautious because they're 2 decent teams. There's no team that will get battered here. It could equally be 3-2. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Coutinho got his big score, didn't he, against Leeds beforehand, which is encouraging. But it's a different Leeds side, and I wonder how it's going to be really interesting how different they are, because from what I've read, the new manager doesn't seem to be massively different in terms of his approach. He's not a Hodgson coming in to massively tighten them up. I think he's still going to be attacking and still go for it. So you never know. Maybe they will still concede 3 goals every match, but I'm sure it's going to be something that he looks to address. Burnley Chelsea, nice and easy prediction for all of us. We've all gone for a Chelsea win and a clean sheet. 2-0 for Pras and I, 1-0 for Mark and Sonaldo. Newcastle Brighton, this pained me, but we are awful at the moment. I've gone for a 2-1 Newcastle. I think they're in great form. Mark agrees. Sonaldo agrees. Doesn't even give us a goal. Pras, you're the only one to give Brighton a point in this. So, yeah, hopefully you're right. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I just think I fancy you guys to score. I'm still not fully convinced. I need to see a little bit more of Newcastle. I think there's a little bit of momentum. There was a little bit of easy fixtures, and as a neutral, I don't consider Brighton to be an easy fixture.
Yep, good. Thank you. That's very nice of you to hear. Norwich Brentford. I found this one really tough to predict. So I don't really know what's going to happen here. I mean, Brentford need to win this. Really, they're massively getting dragged down into things. I've gone for them to win it. I'm not massively confident on it though. Mark and Pras have both gone for 1-0 Norwich, which really shake things up at the bottom of the table. And Andy, you've just got sat on the fence, 1-1. You found it hard to predict as well, I guess.
Just safety, yeah.
Safety first. Very good. Wolves, Palace, these tend to be a lot easier to predict. I just basically always go for a 1-0 Wolves, although like we've talked about, the defensive data doesn't massively suggest they're capable of grinding these out anymore. Snowder agrees with me. Mark and Pras both gone for a 1-1. Against Watford, we've all gone for 1-0 Wolves. There you go. I think 1-0 Wolves against Watford has to be the safest prediction ever, because Watford can't score and Wolves can't score either, but they'll get one.
Could be 0-0 as well. I was considering a 0-0 there.
Yeah, it wouldn't massively surprise me either. Liverpool West Ham, we've all gone for Liverpool win. You've all gone for a 3-1. I've gone for a 2-1. Watford Arsenal, this is the first of Watford's double game weeks. We've all gone for an Arsenal win. Not by huge scores though. Again, this is but the difference. I think under Ranieri, I think we'd all be maybe thinking 3 or 4s. I've just gone for a 1-0 Arsenal. You've all gone for 2 goals. Mark 2-1. You both 2-0. And then Watford's other game, we've all gone for 1-0 against Wolves. So again, we're not expecting Watford to score. To concede lots of goals. But what was interesting was they did concede a lot of goals against Palace, and I didn't see that result coming at all. Were you surprised by that, Pras?
To be honest, even against Man United, they conceded a lot of chances. So there's an element of that solidity that Roy Hodgson brought. Maybe they're just slipping again. The standards are coming down. There could be some of that because they were not solid. That clean sheet for Foster was highly lucky. So they could concede again, and I just feel because my prediction here is more the fact that Arsenal will, they're good for a couple of goals as well, and then they're happy to kind of take their step off the gas a little bit. But I don't see a thrashing in either way. No,
nor do I. But you're right. On another day, that could have been a thrashing for them against United, and that would have followed up from the thrashing against Palace. The derby, Andy, excited for this? 2-1. I've gone for Man City. Mark's gone for 2-0. Pras has gone for 3-0 Man City. You've gone for 2-0. So I'm the only one backing United to score in this. I just haven't been that impressed with City of late. They just haven't really looked quite right for since that thrashing of Sporting, really. But you obviously think quite comfortable.
I think I agree why you would put 2-1, right? 3-1? 2-1. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see why you would put a United goal there. Derby games are always somewhat unpredictable, even if a team is in this case superior to the other team as of this season. So United could come off, nick a goal, but I think City is going to dominate the game, and if they get an early goal, I'm for sure they'll win the game.
I think a lot of people have been waiting for this game to jump off their United assets because it now signifies the end of they've had an unbelievable run of fixtures and a double, but now it looks a lot tougher, and anyone still holding on to Ronaldo, for example, is surely going to use this as an opportunity to get off because he's just been absolutely rubbish for us for ages now. And then we've got Spurs Everton. I've gone for a 2-1 Spurs. In fact, we've all gone for a Spurs win. Mark and I both for 2-0. Pras and Sonaldo 2-1. And then the final match I think we covered is Southampton Newcastle. 3 of us have sat on the fence. Me, Mark, and Sonaldo all going for a 1-1. But Pras has gone for a 2-0 Southampton. Confident. Yeah, easy
again,
win.
I'm backing Southampton, backing your double attack as I think they'll be good
not
for a
locked in
win
yet.
against at home.
Oh, I'm just going to sign off Twitter, I think, if I end up with Broja in my team. Off the fly prediction, Chelsea, Norwich. I'll go. I mean, they won 8-0, was it? earlier in the season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think they'll beat them comfortably. I'll say a 3-0 Chelsea. I think probably fairly comfortable.
3-0, yeah.
3-0. Andy?
2-0.
2-0. Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit more reserved. To be fair, Chelsea aren't massively clicking at the moment, so it wouldn't be too surprising. Captain Matrix. This is our newly designed Captain Matrix. Thanks to Mark for sending this to me. He's been working behind the scenes. If anyone's faulting his dedication, he's still very much on my case about various different things. So he's not lost any interest in it, and he will be back soon. But this is the kind of the main names that are featuring on the Fantasy Football Scout poll, and a lot of them are players we've talked about: Salah, Coutinho, Adams, Broja, Dennis. Nouri's on there for some reason as well. I think that's purely because he's had the rest, and we assume it's a rest in the last game. And those two games, like we've said, we've all predicted 2 clean sheets, I think, for Wolves in those 2 games. So does that mean someone like Sarr could be an option for us in goal? I mean, quite a few people went for Pope, didn't they? What do you think, Pras?
I think Sarr's a decent shout. You have to believe the clean sheets will come given the defensive data drop. But these are the 2 best fixtures. But then at that point, I feel if you're going Sarr and you're going for clean sheets and some saves, just go for Rudiger or Thiago Silva because you'll actually be a more nailed clean sheets with a little bit of attacking output that obviously Sarr doesn't have. So you compensate the saves for a little bit of attacking. So I'd rather go for Chelsea centre back over Sarr.
Yeah. Andy, you might notice on the minutes per points, this is a new thing that Scout have brought into their stats tables now. It was a really popular request when I joined. You can now filter, you can see basically how many points a player's scored over a certain game week range, which is obviously really useful. And you can also filter it by the minutes per point as well. So basically Salah is top of this chart, but only has 1 game. So he gets a minutes per point every 10 minutes. So basically what you need is a player who's got 2 games who gets a minutes per point under 20. And then in theory, they should beat Salah's return. And there's a couple of those. You've got Coutinho, 13.8, but that's mostly made up by that 1 game he had where he went crazy. But then you've got Adams, Broja, Dennis is there. Rafinha is there, interestingly enough, as well. And Nouri as well. So a Wolves defender again. So, there are options this week. And I think a lot of people are going to go to Salah as the kind of default. But I think we're all agreed that we're going to roll the dice on a double game week player. Yeah?
Yep.
Good. Nice and aligned. And watch Salah score for. I just can't see Salah scoring loads of goals against West Ham. That's not an easy game at all. West Ham don't get trounced anymore. They're a good side. Sorry. No, go.
No, I was going to say, look, he can obviously do well. He can do well in any fixture, but West Ham is as, outside the traditional top teams, that's as tough as it gets, despite the fact that they're looking defensively a little bit, okay. I mean, it's they're not a defensive powerhouse, but look, you just back the double game weeker for getting, I mean, for example, if people went Rafinha, the guys on penalties, free kicks, you trust yourself to get over the 2 games an expected value which is higher than Salah's.
Yeah, I mean 9 goals for Rafinha. In a Leeds team that's really struggled all season. Same for Dennis as well. I mean Dennis 9 goals, 6 assists. These are good returns for players in struggling teams. I think Dennis's stock is down because he was under Ranieri he was that big attacking input. But I think Rafinha should increase this. I think he's going to be an option for us. I think between now and the end of the season, Rafinha. Right, let's talk through our team. Pras, I don't even want to show your team. Basically, if you're in the chat and you're, annoyed with your team and you hate us talking about chips, just log out for this bit with Pras for the next few minutes because his team looks absolutely ridiculous for this week. So Pras, I'll read out your team. You're on a bench boost. How you've got this team is ridiculous. So you've got Sarr and Sace, Dean and Trent, Ramsey, Coutinho currently captained, Rafinha, Salah, Broja, Jimenez, and Kane. Like perfect 11. And then you're bench boosting Ramsdale, Robertson, Gabriel, and Saka. I mean, that is a hell of a team, isn't it? You've got to be confident with that.
Yes, confident, but given all the things we've talked about on how this can be a damp squib in terms of how it pans out, we'll see how it works out. What I'm happy about is that I can get bench boost out of the way. It's a good week to do it because Broya, Ramsey, two cheap assets that have a nice double are basically for me perfect enablers for the bench boost. And even though I'm benching Robertson and Asaka, a lot of the competitors in my rank range will be actually starting them. So so my true bench boost points may be lower, but then you get a haul from Coutinho or a Saiz or a Jimenez, that's fine. And bench boost still has worked out. So I'm happy. And this is basically what I was talking about for game week 26 wildcarders. A lot of the game week 26 wildcarders are in this position because as you'll remember in 26, the doublers were Wolves. There's triple Wolves here. Liverpool, there's triple Liverpool here, and Arsenal, there's triple Arsenal here. So the idea, in fact, of 26 was exactly that you get the 26 team, get all the points from them, and then you bench boost in 28. So really hoping it works out. I am looking to do one transfer, which is Gabriel to, I think, Thiago Silva, giving me
even better.
Yeah. So he would basically, Thiago Silva would probably move up and I'd bring Ramsey maybe down to the bench if I was looking at the true bench boost. So yeah, that would be the bench. In an ideal world, I'd like to go for Rudiger or James, but that would require a hit. And I just don't know who I'd take out because back to the discussion on, I want to hold on to the Arsenal assets. I want to hold on to the Liverpool assets, obviously, because of the double next week in 29. And I want to get rid of the Wolves assets after this week or definitely after 30. So that's the idea. I probably may just do Thiago Silva and leave it there.
You got to be a bit worried, haven't you, Andy?
Yeah. So, Pras says to me, whether it's texting or during our videos where, we're rooting for each other and, Andy, I want you to do well. And I think of you as my little brother and this and that. And, deep down inside, Pras is trying to beat me every season.
No doubt.
So
isn't this your second season, Ronaldo?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Pras, you're going to, take a lead on me the next few game weeks. That's fine. But when wildcard 31 comes around, beware for what's to come.
We were doing the mind games. I don't even know who you target in the wildcard. And this comes to as well. I mean, if everyone's on double Chelsea, Trent, Salah, you've got Ramsdale and Saka. I think that's the core, and Kane. That's the core of your wildcard in 31. So yeah, I just feel people who are holding off, I wonder who you're holding off for. Is it the double Leicester? Who else are you targeting in the latter half of or the latter 8 game weeks?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean that's why I'm looking at playing it probably next week because I mean I don't really want any Wolves players really. I don't their defensive numbers aren't that great. They can't score goals. You've got 3 of them, for example, on your side. I'm happy to bin off those. I'm happy to bin off Villa as well. Like once this double game week's done, their fixtures turn. So if you've got those players and you're able to wildcard out of that, because I've got 2 Villa, gonna have a couple of Wolves as well. It's it's fairly easy for me to do that. Yeah. I do wonder what the benefit of. I know a lot of people are waiting, like Andy is as well. But Andy, you're not. Well, let's come on to your team now, and let's get off of Pras's team. It's depressing, everyone. This is Andy's team. It looks like a much more normal. It's still a good team. It's just much more normal until you get up front. Ramsdale in goal. Dean, Robertson, Trent, Livramento, Son, Salah, Ramsey captain, Saka, and then the dynamic duo. The Pras and Ronaldo with the FPL. Well, no, that's a massive insult to you both. I don't mean that at all. You're the Aguero and Suarez of the FPL world. But you've got Dennis and King. And then it's De Gea, Cancelo, Lacazette, and Bowen. How are you feeling with this?
Not great. But listen, here's the thing, right? I'm okay playing this team, fielding this team. I don't think the issue with wildcarding 31, as Pras mentioned, is I don't think it'll differ too much from what it would look like right now. But I still think that 3 weeks of data will help me sort of really attack the latter part of the season and really attack the doubles especially. So that's kind of my thinking here because I don't think I need to wildcard out of this team. I don't know. What do you guys think I need to?
I mean, the big player you're missing without an easy route to get him is got to be Kane, right? Because I mean, he has been next level the last few games that I've seen. I mean, I know Spurs are crazy inconsistent. I mean, knocked out of the cup by Middlesbrough last night. I mean, great performance from them. But Kane would be the big worry for me, not owning him. I mean, have you got any plans to? I don't know. I just don't know how you. I mean, Lacazette, and I don't know how you could. I don't know how you could get him.
No, you made a very good point. Kane, I really want Kane. I think I might go crazy and try to double up on Son and Kane. Although I'd be a little cautious of this because in the last 5 games Spurs played, they did win against City and Leeds, but they're suited to their style of play, whereas they struggle against non-counterattacking or pressing teams. So I wouldn't be so bullish on Kane right now. I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything like that. He's an amazing player, right? I don't think I need to jump on him, but a different strategy for me now is whether I free hit in 30 or not, because with Southampton winning now, I think it's West Ham and Spurs in 30. So switches up my thinking a little bit. I think what that does essentially to the general, public of FPL managers is that they're going to have more single game week players in game week 30 without a free hit, which kind of worries me a little bit because right now with this team, I have very few single game week players in game week 30. So I have a lot to think about. I really need to, sit down the next 2 days, not stream and sort of figure out what I need to do. Yeah, get some sleep too, and plan my next few maneuvers. I might wildcard now, who knows? But I'm open to all options on the table.
So what do you think your transfer would be this week then, if you were just gonna?
I mean, I was thinking about doing De Gea to Mendy for a while. I was thinking about somehow getting to Thiago Silva, but I wouldn't want to lose any of my defenders. If the only one that I would lose is Cancelo, with the caveat being that I'll lose value in him. But I can wildcard in 31 and get triple up City. That's sort of the advantage that I see that Pras questioned me about. So, there's that. And I definitely would move out King or Dennis, probably King for one of the Southampton attackers in Broya.
Yep. Very nice. I'll do my team last because I'm on the free hit. Let's look at Mark's team quickly. This is how Mark's set up. So he's also obviously wildcarded similar to Pras in 26. He's got Foster in goal, Trent, Robertson, Kilman, Semedo, who he got lucky with because obviously he got the 6 points before he got subbed off. But now he's got an issue with him if he doesn't play in the double. He's got Son, Salah, who he's got captain. Very boring. That's not. Come on, Mark, sort it out. Get a double game player in there.
He hit Kane, right?
Yeah. Where is Kane? Has he sold Kane? Oh, no, he's on a free hit.
There was a free hit, Kane.
He was on a free hit, yeah, I was going to say. So he hasn't got Kane as well. And no, again, like you, Andy, no easy way to get him because his front three is Broya, Jimenez and Sir Maximan. Yeah. And then on his bench, he's got Ramsdale, Saka, Tierney and Bowen. He is debating the bench boost this week. So you get the 3 Arsenal players. The last time Mark bench boosted 3 players from one game, do you remember what that was? Leeds against Brighton. And I told him not to, and he ignored me and did it anyway. But yeah, I think, I can't see Watford scoring in that. So Ramsdale and Tierney, I think, are going to get points. I think he probably will bench boost this, to be fair. It just sucks when you've got like Bowen versus your 2 Liverpool defenders, I guess. But
trouble is he won't be able to sell Bowen now. We were talking about it today. I'm actually very happy that Spurs and West Ham have playing in 30 because a lot of people who are not wildcarding will be hesitant to sell Bowen now. And so that'll just mean that that's one extra player that we wildcarders or people who are free hitting will have over people who keep Bowen on the bench or potentially bench boost with Bowen.
I've been really disappointed.
And of course, he'll go on to score against Liverpool.
He probably will. I mean, I've kept him the last 2 weeks when pretty much everyone's sold him. I know Mark's kept him, but a lot of people have sold him. And, he didn't do that much against Wolves, but against Newcastle, he hit the bar and played really well, really advanced. So, yeah, it would have been nice to have some points for him, but I can't complain too much. My team then, so this is the team, this is probably what I'm going to, or something very similar to this is what I'm going to be free hitting into. So it'll be 9 double game week players. The double Wolves defence of Sarr and Sace, the double Chelsea defence of Rudiger and James, and then Salah, Rafinha, Coutinho, Havertz captain, which would be pretty bold, but I like him. And I've got Ryan Fraser in there, as promised. and then Kane and Adams up front. So 2 single game week players in Salah and Kane. I just think that's got to be the sensible play. And then on the bench, these are the kind of guys that nearly made it into the team but haven't quite, and they'll probably outscore a lot of the players that I've got in the 11. Dubravka, Broja, Walker Peters, and Dean. I could go for Broja over Fraser, for example. I'm not too sure. I don't know if I want to go double Southampton. I know the data's been good and there's been a lot of arguments to do it, but I might go for Willock instead. What do you think, Pras?
I think it's great. I mean, there's a lot of upside here. I mean, to think, who are you going against in the template? So you'll have Rudiger double against a Trent. I think you back Rudiger any day. You go Cancelo, people will play against Man United. You have James double. Even if James plays one game, I would back him over the 2, a cameo plus a game.
Yeah,
and he may
exactly.
play both.
Exactly.
Over Cancelo. Saiss and Sarr, as good as it gets with the double in hand. A lot of people have Rafinha. Some have, not many have Kane now. Some have Son. So if Kane outdoes Son, then you're in the money. And then Havertz, I think you made some really good points, and the fact that he's been rested today potentially is a very good captain shout.
And Lukaku,
and all those people,
by all accounts, didn't have a great game against
Exactly.
Luton. I
Exactly.
can't see Havertz not playing, not starting those 2 matches.
So yeah, there's good upside here. I mean, the considerations here are, as you said, whether you play Broja over Fraser, Coutinho versus, I guess we were talking about Ramsey, just because of the price. Is it that you've gone Coutinho over Ramsey? But yeah, there's quite a few options, and because it's a double, you don't potentially even need a bench. I mean, most of these guys will play.
Yeah, Andy, thoughts?
Are you not bench boosting this team?
This is a free hit.
You can't.
Oh, this is free hit. Okay. Okay. Sorry.
God, if I had
First thing in
this
the morning.
team with a bench boost, I would definitely be bench boosting this team.
Okay. I was gonna say, why would you
Well,
not?
you
bench
thought my
boost
actual
them?
team had Havertz and Fraser in it. That would be.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought you. My apologies.
That's right.
Yeah, the team looks great. I think benching Kyle Walker-Peters is scary. I feel like I try to include him somehow in there. Broja, Adams is tough.
It's that Fraser spot. I think it's that Fraser spot
Yeah.
which is the the real decision. Because I mean, even Dean isn't a bad option. But then, what's the point of playing Dean against Adams and Rafinha? I might as well try and go for the bigger upside. One of the main reasons I like the free hit this week, though, is because I know that people who free hitted last week don't even have the option to do it. So it feels straight away that, particularly around the kind of area where I am, people won't be able to invest in Chelsea this much because they're not going to make 3 transfers to bring him in. They're not going to be able to bring in Southampton strikers, So this feels like this is a good week to take a bit of a risk and go for it. And that's what the free hits all about.
Would you? Sorry, Pras.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I actually don't want to say this because it's too much. But
Okay, well, I was going to say the only issue I see with the free hit this week from a macro perspective is that the players that you target this week are also the players that play in 30. So I think now with Spurs, this changes a little bit. And if you wildcard next week, I suppose you can load up on Spurs, you can get some Arsenal, and you'd be fine for 30. But that's the only thing where I just feel if people were to free hit, then maybe this wouldn't, from a macro perspective, be the week, given that you could get, with a -4, -8, some of the players, and then also they play in 30.
If I didn't have 2 free hits, I wouldn't be using one this week, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's just because I've got the 2 and I've got to use them at some point. And they're just, it didn't feel like there was enough last week to do it, but it does just feel like there is this week.
I mean, such a good move by you to not use it last week. That's like one of those game-changing moves, It
was just a Burnley double. If it had been a City double or just anything a bit more exciting, I probably would have been swayed into it. But
yeah,
I mean, I was worried. Like, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I was sat there confidently being like, "Oh, I'm gonna smash this week." I was very, very worried.
Yeah,
but it turned out well. Okay, that is it. The only other thing to talk about, and again, sorry for anyone who doesn't enjoy the chip stuff. I thought there are going to be people on wildcards this week. So what I did was just stick together a quick wildcard draft. If I was wildcarding this week, it would probably look something like this. Foster and Ramsdale, Thiago Silva, Trent, Cancelo, think Cancelo's an interesting one with all the doubles, but I think I'd still stick with him. Ben Johnson's cheap, Livramento. Although Livramento now, I'm more worried about him losing his place against a Parole. Midfield, Ramsey, Salah, Rafinha, Son. I'd go Saka if I had the money. Actually, I do have the money, but I thought I'd bring it down a bit. My team value is quite high. That's not a humble brag. I just wanted to make it clear. I'll put Martinelli in. But again, you could go for Gordon. You could go for Fraser. You could go. There's loads of options around that price. And then up front, I've gone Adams and Broja and Kane. Thoughts on this, Pras? Anyone?
The problem with game week this game week's free hit is wildcard is when do you bench boost, and you're so far away from the bench boost. So if you were to set up for bench boost 29, then I think this team needs more Everton. Maybe it's because they're just cheap players who you can have on the bench. Then the second consideration is, are you going to free hit in 30 or not? If you were so this team I think is quite well set up for 30. Decently set up. You have Kane and Son. You have potentially, who else
Johnson.
do you have actually? Johnson if he plays, Martinelli. So actually no, you've only got 5 players for game week 30. This is the headache. I'm not jealous of anyone on a wild card this week, because you really have to pin down which week you're going to play the free hit, whether it's 30 or not, and which week you're going to play the bench boost. And you're almost forced into doing that if you wildcard now. But in isolation, I think in terms of the players that you picked, I agree with you. Maybe Cancelo is the guy to get, but I'd be tempted to go Reece James at double Chelsea, basically, because that gives you an advantage. Nobody else will be on double Chelsea except for wildcarders for the foreseeable future. I think Trent is obviously a hygiene pick. Ramsey and Broja, I think they still be popular because they're just so cheap and they can be benchable after. So I think it's good.
There's not anyone in this team that massively excites me though, wildcard wise. And this is all the budget pretty much. This is kind of I think 103 or something, 102, 103. It's not massively exciting, which is one of the reasons why I'm glad I can use the free hit this week, because I'm much more excited about that free hit team than if I was wildcarding into something like this, because it's I don't know. I think it will score quite well, but I don't think it's got as much upside as that free. I think if you've got the 2 free hits and you're not using one of them this week, I think you're pretty much earmarking one of them for 30, right? And then if you're going to wildcard sooner than Andy is, before 30, you just forget about 30 and just accept that you're gonna free hit into that. So you haven't got to worry about it. But if you've only got 1 free hit, then it's a lot more interesting, because you've got to work out whether to cover 30 or whether you use it in 33 or 36. And yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. Okay, we're nearly at the 2-hour mark, but we are nearly finished. Just to give a shout out to the Black Box Leagues. Lucas Komorski is top. He's also 9th in the world, which is incredible. Broken into top 10. So hopefully he can continue. You got Caleb, Ruben, James S, Brett Taylor, Yagub, Adrian, Tor Evan, Anuj, and Christian, all rounding up the 10 in our league, all with crazy high finishes expected of them this season. So congratulations. Apologies, I forgot to do the Apprentice update. I feel bad with the Apprentice, because that was something that Mark and I were really, really keen on, but we just haven't had the time to properly invest in it. But we will do a check-in with Natalie and Henry at some point. Natalie's smashing Henry anyway. Because
it's been a complex season, to be honest. I mean,
has.
In a normal season without the postponements, you would still see some kind of alignment, but this has been so difficult this season. So information has been so key.
It has, yeah. But they're both engaged. They're both, doing their transfers every week, and Natalie, particularly on Twitter, is just doing really well. So, full credit to her. Henry just burnt through all of his chips right at the start of the season. Although he did triple captain Salah against United, which wasn't bad. I know. The ticker. This is again from Fantasy Football Scout. Just for anyone who just wants a quick overview, Wolves are top, Leeds are second, Southampton are third, Arsenal are fourth, Chelsea are fifth. So if you're looking to invest in teams, they're the ones to grab. Right down the bottom though, and if you've got any of these assets, you're probably going to be looking to sell. Crystal Palace, City. Again, this is interesting. They've got the blank coming up. They've got Man United. They've got Liverpool. Do we need to keep faith in Cancelo? I'm probably going to lose Foden. I'll admit it a little bit reluctantly. Man United, West Ham, and Burnley. Burnley, right down the bottom now. So all the Tarkowski, Pope, Weghorst owners, again, probably looking to jump ship from them. 2 more plugs before I go. I played football last night even though I've got a hernia, my doctor said that I could play football still. So I went and played yesterday and I got through it. So I think I'm going to be in the starting lineup in the North versus South game week 39 game. Pras, we're competing for the right back slot, right?
There's no competition. I haven't played for 10 years, so you better be fit to play.
I've got a hernia. Oh God, they're going to
still be better than me.
Oh, they're going to attack us down that side, aren't they? If you are interested in that, though, it's being held at the Castle Vale Stadium in Birmingham on the 28th of May. You can buy tickets. There's a link in the description below. I think they're like a £5 something like that, and all the money goes to Street Child United. That's being run by Benny Blanco. So thank you very much to him. And the final plug is for the FPL Challenge, the charity that Mark and I donate to each week. We donate every time we get a green arrow. We donate £5 every time we do that. If you want to get involved, you can donate as little as 65p every time you get a green arrow, and the money is really building up. There's obviously quite a lot of people getting involved in this, which is amazing, and you're feeding starving people around the world. So if you're interested in that, there's links to that in the description below as well. Pras Sonaldo, thank you so much for joining me for BlackBox. Hopefully you've enjoyed it.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you for having us. This is so informative, actually, going through the data, talking about the players. So thank you for having us. It's been brilliant.
Nice. You've been excellent guests. And Andy, you've made it. You can, you start work now, do you?
Unfortunately, I have to go to work in an hour. So,
oh my God.
So hopefully I zombie it through today, but I don't want to complain because hopefully I can maybe make another appearance here with Pras and on BlackBox later down the line. Yeah, so I feel great as I feel really alive right now. And no, just kidding. But I just want to say, like, as a FPL, just kind of a fan first and foremost, where I began last season, and just kind of just love the game, and to be here speaking with you two and on BlackBox is just wild for me. So it's been a great journey, and I thank you for everything, especially the FF Scout stuff. So huge props to you, and yeah, keep doing you, and let's keep doing us, Pras, and hopefully we continue to develop and get better.
Well, I'll just say again, the Burning Question series on Scout is absolutely brilliant. It is so good. So anyone who enjoys stats, and you both bring wealth of knowledge about FPL. You both talk about football in kind of more general terms as well, to cater for that. Talk about tactics and strategy. There's so much to those videos. So again, I would urge everyone to go and check those out. They're all every Wednesday over on Fantasy Football Scout with these two. And a guest normally as well. I've been on it. Andy North has been on it as well. So yeah, if you've enjoyed listening to everyone talking, then check that out too. But for now, I'm going to let Andy grab a power nap or a coffee or whatever you need to get you through the rest of the day. And Pras, I'll let you go to bed. I imagine that's where I'm going to be.
I'm going to have a nice 8-hour sleep, Andy.
Oh,
yes.
God.
It's going to be so good.
Oh, so lucky.
But if you have enjoyed this stream, please do smash that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Really appreciate it. And I will be back with another 2 guests next week. See if you can guess who they are. But thank you guys, and I will speak to you both soon.
Thank you.